The next line of the helper is modes. So we'll click and drag and create a shape, just clicking and dragging, and we'll press tab to pause, and we'll press D, and we'll now talk about mode. So in the middle of a drawing, we see that the helper looks a little bit different, it's a little bit shorter, but we're able to click and toggle through the different modes. So right now we see that I'm able to toggle through the modes, but it's not actually updating on the fly. So this is one of the things that is kind of variable whenever it comes to the new helper, where sometimes you have to mouse over the view in order for it to register, and then from there you're able to adjust things on the fly. For example, we've changed ourselves over to inset, and we're now able to adjust our thickness on the fly. However, now that it's actually updated, we could change ourselves back to cut, and it requires that we hover over the 3D view, and now we're able to toggle through these on the fly. In fact, we can just click and drag, and it's able to let us toggle through these on the fly. However, the most important part about listing all of our modes at the top is the sub options of our specific settings for particular modes that you can now activate without having to click hotkeys. So previously, inset slice was marked to Alt X. So if we press Alt X, we see that we're able to get back our slice and we can toggle it back off. That hotkey has now been delegated to just a checkbox that users can now inset, press D, go in and just toggle between inset slice, and even press Alt Z to see through, and you can press D to go back inside and adjust the thickness of it on the fly, removing the use of having to press the hotkey of T. Now, we don't plan on removing any of the hotkeys that are acquainted with Boxcutter. However, our goal is definitely to make it where you're still able to perform every action capable of a hotkey, even without having to know the hotkey. Another part of Boxcutter that I'm quite a big fan of is that you can now change over to knife. And whenever you're in knife, you have the option for hops mark. So if we press D to bring up our helper, we see that hops mark is here, which is unlocked via having HardOps enabled and having hops mark sharp options enabled for what edges you would like to mark. So if I were to click, we see that we've now marked the boundaries of this edge with the same settings that we would use inside the sharp options of the control tilde helper, which is what the box helper is heavily derived from. Another thing is that inset or extract has the ability to use surface extract, which is one of our behaviors. We did a very long video in the past talking about the differences between surface extract and regular extract, which is the difference is basically filtering out only Boolean. Surface extract allows extract to take an entire surface. So even if I were to manually model something in, let's just do a quick demonstration of this, but if I were to press Q, use HardOps to turn this into a circle, and we extrude this, we're definitely creating this area not using booleans. We're using just regular old geometry, which is a classic fallback for things in the event that they fail. However, in the event that we wanted to repeat this, we can just simply draw a shape over it, extract it, we see the extraction of what was taken, and whenever we draw, we're simply able to repeat this piece even though it was geometrically modeled into the shape. So that's really the difference between extract and surface extract. If we were to turn this off and we extracted this, we are simply whiffing just pieces of air, and the results are just not even worth talking about. So for everyone's sake, you definitely want to be using surface extract whenever it comes to extract. But the access to all of these little minor settings that are associated with each of our individual tools is now accessible for users to be able to access and jump to on the fly without a whole lot of rigmarole. Another favorite of mine is Recut. To demonstrate Recut in the context that I always use it, we can press D, change over to box. Let's enable snapping, but we want to turn off snapping with grid and use dots. So we can hold control, use this dot to jump off. We could draw our shape, press D, activate wedge, click to apply, and from here we can just draw our box, but we want to press W at least to get rid of wedge and revert it back to box. So if we cut this down, we could press D, go in our helper, change to slice, activate recut, and from here begin adjusting a bevel on this. So we're basically cutting out a slice, but we're referring to a piece that is unmodified by booleans, giving us a rather unique slice. So these settings are now easier to access than ever, and that's why this is the second row of the box helper.